What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day in Philly Sports History for July 11th, 2024. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. Welcome to a Thursday edition of the podcast. The humidity finally broke. It's supposed to be a beautiful summer day, so get out and enjoy without fear of sweating and all that other stuff that goes with the humidity. It's been so thick, but it did rain last night. Clouds are supposed to burn off, and then it's supposed to be beautiful. Speaking of beautiful, let's start with the Phillies. Another solid win, 4-3 over the Dodgers last night. Cristopher Sanchez, good bounce back for him. Despite he was sick, apparently he had a fever too, but came out, pitched 6 strong innings, getting back on track, and might have earned himself a spot on the All-Star team. We'll see. I'm not sure what the deadline for that is, but might make the All-Star team, which is pretty cool. But Schwarbomb led off the game with a Schwarbomb. You gotta love that. It's I know there's a lot of people who say, "Oh, you lead off." It's just something about leading off the game. J-Roll used to do it. I think Ricky Henderson used to be the best about it. But leading off the game with a home run, there's nothing like it. But a good win for the Phils against. Yes, they're a little bit depleted, but a team that expects to be in the postseason this year. The Dodgers. Braves lost 2, so the lead is back up to 8-5. I did see this, or 8.5. Sorry, my brain is moving much faster than my mouth today. But I saw a stat after the game that I wanted to share, because remember earlier in the season when the Phils went on the run to kind of get the cushion they have now, everybody's like, but they're not beating anybody. Well, as of last night, the Phillies are 22-13 versus teams over 500. That's a .629 winning percentage. That is the best in Major League Baseball. So I haven't heard much about the schedule recently. Yeah, I know a lot of people with the Braves were like, oh, we beat you. And that's all right. And it's regular season. It's a long season. We were depleted. And even with this Dodgers series, take it with somewhat grain of salt. They're a little banged up too, but they're still a good team. But the Phillies are the best team right now against teams that have a 500 or better record. So I'm not sure where all those, but it's the schedule people are right now. But just thought I'd throw that out there because I thought that was definitely interesting. Lots of trade rumors. At this point, too many to count. I know they keep saying they're going to go for a bullpen arm and maybe some role players. I don't buy it. I think if they have a shot to get someone at the right price, I think Dave Dombrowski will definitely be smart about it and not pull a Ruben Amaro. No disrespect, Ruben, but and completely deplete the farm system because it's taken them 14, 15 years at this point to get the farm system where they are. So I don't think he's going to go willy-nilly and just deplete it just for the sake of bringing somebody. But I do think that there is a bigger name coming in. And the other debate that was all over Twitter, all over both sports talk stations, was the whole backup catcher. And I did say in the beginning of the season that might be one of our weaker points. Marchand looks pretty good, but there's a lot of people who are like, well, if you get rid of Stubbs or send him down and make Marchand the backup catcher, that you're going to mess with the chemistry in the clubhouse. And I don't know in this case if that matters. If you're going to do something like that with Castellanos, maybe you might have that. Like a Brandon Marsh, you might have that. But I just don't know in this case if it matters. And truthfully, I don't know if it matters which one of those guys is the backup catcher. Yes, Marchand will bring you more offense, or at least more consistent offense. Stubbs is probably a better defensive catcher. I really don't think it matters. I think you do what you can to get through this season. And then once you get to the postseason, JT's not missing games anyway. So it's kind of one of those things where you want to have, I guess, whoever the pitchers are more comfortable with. So I don't know, but definitely give me your thoughts on that because I could see it either way. I personally, regular season, it doesn't faze me one bit, but for the postseason, I think you want the better talent. I think you want the better chance to win. So that's sort of where I am. But does an instance like this, because I also believe that locker room chemistry does matter, and but does it matter in this case? Because if Marchand is a better player, is that going to mess? Is Stubbs going to mess the chemistry of this team up as much as everybody said? But let me know what your thoughts are. 267-495-8531. That'll get you into the Back to the Future text line. Send me a text. Leave a voicemail. Does the whole chemistry versus talent matter? Specifically in the case of Marchand versus Stubbs. Let me know your thoughts on that. Sixers. Phillies looking for the sweep tonight. They play at 6, sending Aaron Nola to the mound. Be nice to sweep the Dodgers. But let's just get to the All-Star break at this point. Bryce did miss because of the shot he took off of his glove hand. I have a feeling if he wasn't just coming back from injury, and if it wasn't right before the All-Star break, he would have played. Would not be surprised to see him in the lineup today. But good win. Number 60, first team in Major League Baseball to get 60 wins. But truthfully, it doesn't mean anything because it's all about the postseason and doing well and advancing and finally getting another World Series. All right. The wait is over. The Clashing Conferences podcast finally will be dropping their baseball episodes starting tomorrow. So be sure to check my boys out. They're working hard over there, doing some great things. That's the Clashing Conferences podcast, wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. They did an awesome job in the fall with football. Another great job with the NBA season through the finals, and now they're kicking off baseball with a pretty decent crew. So be sure to check that out tomorrow when the new episode drops, wherever you get your podcasts, as well as on YouTube. And go to Philly Goat. I've been telling you about the shirts. The Kruk is my spirit animal. Proceeds of the 10% of your sales benefit the Battle Brothers Foundation, who does great things for our veterans. And if you really want to get political, they have the Anyone Under 75 literally shirt. So go check out Philly Goat, see what they got going on over there, and be sure to use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off your order. You get 10% off. Also helps the podcast out. So go phillygoat.com, use the promo code Jim Montgomery for 10% off your order. Ricky Council IV continues to impress in Summer League, and I'm hoping that I feel like he showed some glimpses of this last year when he got some playing time, and hopefully continuing to be able to play and work on his game will be able to really maximize, and he should be able to contribute and get meaningful minutes next year. McCain struggled a little bit. Bona definitely is just flying all over the court. I like his energy, but it's Summer League, and I get it. But it's good to see Ricky Council had a good 3-game stretch there in Salt Lake City, so hopefully that will continue. The United States played their first tune-up game yesterday, or friendly, I guess they call it in international sports, but against Canada. They won. Joe struggled a bit. Had 5 points, I think 5 or 6 rebounds, a couple turnovers, but fouled out. And it's because I guess the game is a little bit different. But I think this might have an unintended consequence for the Sixers, which if he's going to be getting fouled out, he's going to have to learn how to play because he's not going to get the ticky-tack calls or he's going to have to learn how to play because they're not going to give him the same calls that they do in the NBA. So having that sort of experience in your repertoire might help. But, I mean, we got a couple more friendlies this week before the Olympics start. But good to see Joe out there. And it's been a while since he's played a competitive game anyway. So shaking off some rust, but hopefully he's able to bounce back. I forget who they play. I think tonight or tomorrow they play someone. So we will continue to follow that as well as the Sixers Summer League. I think they're moving to California next before they get to Vegas. But Ricky Council IV definitely still is looking good. And a lot has been made about I guess because the offseason version of Hard Knocks was out and it showed the Giants and the whole situation, the way things played out with Saquon. And just, I don't know, I'm looking at it like this. Seeing that conversation that the GM and Saquon had, I think he's basically going to be looking for some sort of not that he's going to need it, but I think he's going to have a couple good games against the Giants. Basically, he flat out told them, I've made it clear I want to be a Giant for life. And between that conversation that was posted on social media yesterday, as well as the whole we're not going to spend $12 million, we're drafting linemen to protect our quarterback, not a $12 million running back. I think it was very clear that if he was going to come back for a cheaper price, they would have taken him, but it basically seems like they gave up on him. So not that he would need it, but it looks like there's going to be a little extra motivation for Saquon against the Giants next year. All right, today we're going to go back to 1971. It seems like we've gone back to the 71 Phillies team a lot in recent weeks, despite the fact they weren't that good. But on this day, the Phillies beat the Expos 11-5 at the Vet, thanks in part to a 7-run 6th inning. They pounded out 14 hits and were able to overcome a 5-2 deficit early. First baseman Deron Johnson went 3 for 5 with 5 RBI. He homered in his first 3 at-bats. And if you couple that with the homer he had the night before in his final at-bat, tied a Major League Baseball record with 4 consecutive home runs and 4 consecutive at-bats. The last time that was done was July 5th and 6th of this year by Dodgers catcher Will Smith, who just made the All-Star team, who homered in his last 3 at-bats on the 5th and his first at-bat on the 6th. Deron Johnson played for the Phillies for 5 years from 69 through 73. That 71 season, he hit a career-high 34 homers, and that was just not a good Phillies team. They went 67-95. It was the first year at the Vet, so lots of things happening. That Rick Wise had his no-hitter where he hit 2 home runs. That was the year that Willie Stargell hit the farthest home run in Veteran Stadium history. We're now talking about Deron Johnson hitting 4 consecutive home runs. But on this day, the Phils beat the Expos 11-5. Deron Johnson hit 3 home runs in his first 3 at-bats, coupled with his home run the night before in his last at-bat, and tied a Major League Baseball record with 4 consecutive home runs in 4 at-bats. It's been done a few times, not a lot, but a few times, too many to mention here. But last time it was done was earlier this month, actually about a week ago, by Dodgers catcher Will Smith. So Deron Johnson, 4 consecutive home runs between yesterday and today back in 1971. All right, it is time for the Ultimate Philly Sports Nickname Tournament. Before we get into today's matchup, let's recap yesterday. Who's going to the Sweet 16? Out of the Ben Franklin region, World B. Free knocked off the Bull with 56% of the vote to move on to the Sweet 16, where he'll face the winner of the Broad Street Bullies or Nail/Dude. And then out of the Cheesesteak region, it was Chocolate Thunder with 57% of the vote. Definitely a lot closer than what many people had predicted and expected. Maybe that's the wake-up call that Chocolate Thunder needed. But 57% of the vote, he took down Shady, play the winner of the Secretary of Defense and the Round Mound of Rebound. But moving on to the Sweet 16, World B. Free and Chocolate Thunder. The Sixers with a sweep yesterday. And then today we have 2 more matchups. Second round starting. First out of the Schuylkill region, we have the Axeman taking on J-Roll, the number 4 seed versus the number 12 seed. And then out of the Balboa region, we have the number 3 seed, the Minister of Defense, taking on the number 6 seed, the chairman of the boards. And some of our other matchups here in the Schuylkill region, Concrete Charlie will take on Hollywood Hamels. Chooch will take on Puddinhead. And Dirty Waters will take off on Dr. J. And then in the Balboa region, the Executioner takes on Wild Thing Mitch Williams. Weapon X will take on Dave the Hammer Schultz. And Gang Green will take on the Flying Hawaiian for a spot in our Sweet 16. But let's start with our Schuylkill region action. We have the number 4 seed, the Axeman, Jeremiah Trotter, out of Stephen F. Austin, Hooks, Texas. And I'll go more into detail in the story with his dad. He always wanted to play football. The people in his town wanted him to play football. His dad always says no because he didn't want him to get hurt because he needed him around the house to help out with wood, help out with work, aka chopping wood. Finally, he relented and let him play in high school under the condition that he would still be able to keep up his grades and still help out around the house, and also not miss church, because going to church and religion was very important to the Trotter family. Finally let him play in high school, and through Jeremiah bugging him and the town people saying, but he went to college then at Stephen F. Austin, left after his junior year he had a shot to go to the NFL, make some money, help provide for the family that had provided so much for him. His dad was starting to fail a little bit in health, so he wanted to do his part to help out. Unfortunately for Jeremiah, his dad passed away a couple days before he was supposed to go to his first mini camp with the Eagles, and that is where the whole Axeman name and the Axeman chop celebration that he did came into play. It was a way for him to honor his father. On the field for Jeremiah, and again, I told you yesterday, I'm trying to give you a little bit more information that I didn't during the first round. Jeremiah was one of 4 Eagle linebackers to make 4 or more Pro Bowls: Chuck Bednarik, Bill Berge, and Maxie Baughan. But he is our 4 seed out of the Schuylkill region, and for my money, I still say they would have gone to the Super Bowl against the Buccaneers had Andy Reid not let him go. Or I guess Andy Reid and Joe Banner. But either way, Joe Jurevicius is still running, and Levon Kirkland is still chasing. But if Trot was on the field, it would have been a different story. He's taking on the number 12 seed J-Roll, who pulled off the upset in the first round. He upset the Big Dipper, Wilt Chamberlain. 15 years in Philly and an absolute legend for the Phillies. He was a 3-time All-Star, including his rookie year. And despite making the All-Star team in his rookie year, J-Roll was 3rd in the Rookie of the Year voting, behind a couple big names, future Hall of Famer Albert Pujols, as well as Roy Oswalt, a future teammate of J-Roll. But J-Roll is one of 4 players to be in the 20-20-20-20 club: 20 doubles, 20 triples, 20 homers, and 20 stolen bases in a season. In 2007, the year he won the MVP, he had 38 doubles, 20 triples, 30 homers, and stole 41 bases. A very, very rare feat in Major League Baseball history. That was enough to win him the MVP in 2007. He is a World Series champion. He was the heart, the soul, the leader of that team. Basically guaranteed the Phillies were going to win the NL East in 2007, then went out and backed it up with his best season of his career. And a little fun fact about J-Roll, didn't realize this, he wore 3 numbers in his career. Most of you remember him as number 11, but when he first came up his first year, I don't think his rookie year, I think when he was called up the year before, wore number 29. Everybody remembers him wearing the familiar number 11, but he did wear number 6 during the 2003 season. So just a little fun fact there. But now it's your turn. Which is the better Philly sports nickname? Is it the Axeman or is it J-Roll? 267-495-8531. That'll get you into the Back to the Future voice and text line. Text me, call me, whatever you got to do. Hit me up on social media, Jimbo_Mott, Twitter and TikTok, at Philly Jimbo on Instagram. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn. You can email me, comment on Spotify, comment on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, whatever you got to do to get those votes in. But just get the vote in, and be sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jimbo_Mott, to keep up with any updates and things like that. I'm working on some things possibly for an Eagles preview, so stay tuned for that. But is it the Axeman or J-Roll, the 4 seed versus the 12 seed in the Schuylkill region? What is the better Philly sports nickname? Moving on to the Balboa region, we have the number 3 seed Minister of Defense, Reggie White, was from Chattanooga, Tennessee, played at University of Tennessee, and then had his first pro experience with the Memphis Showboats in the USFL. He had 23.5 sacks while playing for Memphis, came to the Eagles when the USFL folded. I have some things in the archives that I might pull out for the USFL because it's a whole interesting sort of vibe and story for that. but actually took a pay cut to come to the Eagles, but spent 8 years in Philly, played 121 games, had 124 sacks. Let that sink in for a minute. More than a sack a game for the Eagles. He's number 1 all time for the Eagles in sacks, number 2 behind Bruce Smith. But if you factor in the USFL stats, maybe, I don't know if they'll ever do that, but if you factor in USFL stats, he's like 20 sacks or so ahead of Bruce Smith. NFL Defensive Player of the Year in 1987 when he had 21 sacks in 12 games, which to me, that is the sack record. Forget Mark Gastineau, forget Michael Strahan, forget TJ Watt, forget them all. Reggie White is the ultimate sack king in NFL history. His number 72 is retired, 7-time Pro Bowler with the Eagles, 7-time All-Pro. He's on the NFL 75th and 100th anniversary teams, and his nickname comes because he is was an ordained minister, and he was one of those guys that would take your head off and then extend his hand, pick you up, and say, "I'll pray for you, brother." And then he is taking on the number 6 seed, the chairman of the board. What a second-round matchup this is, by the way. Moses Malone, the chairman of the boards. We talked about it yesterday. He's the first player in basketball history to go straight from high school to the pros when he went to the ABA's Utah Stars. But he was just a beast and a monster on the board. Spent 5 years in Philly. The first 4 years, he made 4 All-Star teams, including the MVP in 1983. Led the league in rebounding 3 times while with the Sixers. He was Defensive Player of the Year in 1983. And obviously, he was that missing piece that Dr. J talked about to Paul George. They finally got Dr. J over the hump to win the Sixers their last NBA championship. And obviously, he got his name because he was just a relentless force on the boards. Pounded his opponents into submission, was one of those guys. And like, I've played ball against guys like that, and it's just, you come out of a game and you're exhausted because this dude is just coming at you and he just does not stop. And one thing about Moses with his rebounds, he was great on the offensive glass, tons of offensive rebounds, which led to a lot of easy points, which helped lead to the nickname as well. We all know about the faux prediction, which turned out to be faux 5-4. And if you want some good listening here on a Thursday, don't forget Pieces of the Dream, Philly's own faux 5-4. Listen to the song. It's a great song. As I'm doing my editing, I'm going to be having it in the background too. So there's a little faux 5-4 vibe of Pieces of the Dream during this podcast. But again, it is your turn now. What is the better Philly sports nickname? This is a heavyweight matchup. There's a reason why these guys are in the Balboa region. But the Minister of Defense, the number 3 seed, taking on the number 6 seed, chairman of the boards. Who do you got? And then in the Schuylkill region, you got the Axeman taking on J-Roll, 2 Philly legends. But who has the better Philly sports nickname? 267-495-8531. That'll get you in. Be sure to get that vote in. Axeman versus J-Roll, Minister of Defense versus the chairman of the boards. Who do you got? Social media, Back to the Future voice and text line, whatever you got to do, get that vote in, and then go tell your friends to subscribe to the YouTube channel. On this day in 1971, Phillies beat the Expos 11-5. Deron Johnson hit 3 home runs in his first 3 at-bats, and when you add that to his at-bat from the night before, that's 4 consecutive at-bats with a home run, tying a Major League record that was just tied again earlier this week by Will Smith of the Dodgers, who happens to be, ironically enough, in Philadelphia as we speak. We'll have more on the Sixers Summer League action. Still no word on Kyle Lowry, but I expect that to kind of come soon. I think that would be a good veteran piece for them to bring back. I keep talking about bringing Marcus Morris, get that Philly connection, let the old guys get their championship in Philly. And yes, I'm very bullish on the Sixers still today, but we'll see. So Phil's looking to sweep the Dodgers with Aaron Nola on the mound tonight. Hopefully Bryce will be back in the lineup and his hand is not too bad. Be sure to get your votes in, though, for the Ultimate Philly Sports Nickname Tournament. Get out, do something today. It's going to be beautiful. There's not 150% humidity. Enjoy it. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History for July 11th. I'll get it out. July 11th, 2024. I'm Jim Montgomery. And until next time, I'll see you when I see you.